February 12th, 1940. 05:47 hours. Kolla Hill, eastern Finland. The sky is still black, the kind of winter darkness that swallows sound and breath alike. A thin column of moonlight cuts across the snowfield, glinting off the frost-stiff branches of the pines. And on that ridge, motionless, almost invisible beneath a hand-sewn white smock, lies Corporal Arno van Halle, rifle pressed into his shoulder, breath controlled to the rhythm of a distant wind. He has been there for hours, maybe longer. Time dilutes into the cold. Below him, through the drifting haze of snowfall, the Soviet 56th Rifle Company begins to move. Their footfalls crunch softly, too softly. They know there's a Finnish sniper somewhere on this hill. Some whisper he's a ghost, a rumor, a shape the snow itself takes when it wants to kill. But he's real, and right now he watches them advance in a slow, uncertain line. You can almost feel that cold biting his fingers through his gloves, the stillness, the tension that coils in the back of his neck, every sense tuned to the forest's breath. Van Halle shifts just a centimeter, no more. A twig beneath him doesn't crack, the snow doesn't flinch, his movements are practiced, methodical. By now he can feel the enemy before he sees them. A sergeant steps into his field of fire, red-starred ushanka lowered against the wind. Van Halle's finger tightens and he exhales. The rifle bucks once. The sergeant falls, faced first, into the powder. For a half second, there's silence. Then shouts, confusion, men pointing into the tree line, but they see only the restless curtain of snow, no muzzle flash, no movement. Because Van Halle doesn't move. He waits. This has been his existence for 3 brutal weeks. Hold Kolla Hill, alone if he must. No matter that the rest of his squad had been pulled back after yesterday's shelling, no matter that he has only 28 rounds left and a ridge barely wide enough to dig a passable fighting hole. Command needed eyes here, a trigger here, a man here. He volunteered. The Soviets reorganize. A platoon fans out, another begins to probe up the left slope. Their officers shout for spacing, for caution. Somewhere deep in the mass, a machine gun team drops to their knees and readies a tripod. Van Halle's cheek rests on the icy wood of his rifle. He watches one soldier's breath plume into the cold, watches another pause to adjust the strap on his ammo belt, watches fear creep into the way they glance toward the trees. He waits for the one mistake that always comes. It comes quickly. A young private breaks formation, sprinting toward a fallen comrade to drag him back. A noble instinct, a fatal one. Another muted shot cracks from the ridge. The private collapses beside the man he tried to save. Again, the company freezes. They fire back, of course. A chaotic volley punches holes into branches, tree trunks, shadows. Snow erupts in white fountains. Ricochets hiss past Van Halle's hood. He doesn't flinch, doesn't return fire. He simply melts lower into the snow, letting panic do his work for him, letting the Russians waste ammunition on ghosts. The hail of automatic fire subsides, replaced by the uneasy shuffle of boots. Van Halle's heart rate stays steady. His face is numb, but he barely notices. Hunger and sleep are distant, meaningless things. Only the rifle matters. Only the next shot matters. Below, the company commander, Captain Mikhail Lutsenko, steps forward, pistol raised, barking orders. He's frustrated, embarrassed. He can't lose momentum here. This ridge is a key approach route, and they're already behind schedule. Van Halle recognizes the posture. the authority, the aggressive silhouette. He adjusts his sights, breath steady. The captain leans in to shout. A single shot echoes across the hill. Captain Lutsenko's voice cuts off mid-command. He falls sideways into the snow. And then everything on the hillside changes. The company erupts into movement, some rushing behind trees, some dropping to the ground, some scrambling back down the slope. Commands break apart. Cohesion dissolves. The forest becomes a mosaic of flailing shapes and half-formed decisions. Then Hala doesn't fire again. Not yet. He simply watches, cold, disciplined, waiting for the next moment the enemy reveals itself. You can almost feel that eerie quiet stretching thin across the ridge. The snowfall thickens, turning the world into a white, muffled void. The Soviets, half blind in the storm, begin preparing for a full assault. They don't know he's down to fewer than 24 rounds. They don't know he's exhausted, dehydrated, and alone. They don't know that one man, with nothing but snow and silence for armor, is about to hold them here for hours. All they know is this: something unseen is killing them, and in just a moment, they will decide to flush it out, no matter the cost. The storm thickens. The ridge disappears behind drifting veils of white, and soon even the Soviets can barely see 10 meters ahead. But they don't retreat. They can't. Orders from battalion command were explicit. Take Kolla Hill before noon. The timetable doesn't bend for weather or for ghosts. A faint whistle cuts through the wind. The Soviet platoon leaders raise their arms, signaling the assault line to form. Men shuffle into position, rifles tight, bayonets fixed, breathing hard, glancing into the blinding white where they know the sniper lies. Somewhere in that mass, a corporal mutters a prayer. Another spits into the snow to hide the tremor in his jaw. Von Hala hears all of it. He lies flat, so flat his heartbeat feels like it might echo against the frozen ground. His camouflage suit is crusted with frost. Snow clings to the folds of his hood, turning him into part of the hillside itself. Even his rifle barrel is wrapped in white cloth. He can see them, dim shapes moving in staggered lines, and he can hear their fear, a quiet vibration running through the forest floor. He chooses his moment with the ruthlessness of someone who can't afford a wasted bullet. A Soviet automatic rifleman leans forward to whisper something to his comrade, maybe reassurance, maybe fear. Von Hala fires. The man drops mid-sentence. The line falters. Another shot. A corporal collapses, his helmet rolling down the slope like a small metallic echo of the chaos unfolding. The Russians dive for cover, but there's none to be had, only open snow and scattered rocks. Panic ripples across their formation, and for a second, just a second, it looks like they might break completely. But then a whistle shrieks again. The assault begins. 40 men surge uphill, shouting, firing blindly, their boots crushing deep trails into the powder. They're not searching for the sniper, they're trying to overwhelm him, to drown him in sheer numbers and noise. Von Hala stays absolutely still. The first wave comes within 40 meters, then 30. Their faces become clearer. Faces twisted with adrenaline, rifles shaking as they fire into the woods. He waits until they hit 20. Then he disappears.
With a practiced motion, Von Holle slips backward, crawling through a narrow trench he dug the night before, a shallow escape path that snakes behind a boulder half buried in the snow. From below, it looks like he's vanished into the forest. The Soviets don't expect that. They assume he'll hold position, fight to the last bullet. They storm the ridge, shouting that they've got him. But the ridge is empty. And in that moment of confusion, when they look around, trying to understand how the sniper slipped away, Von Holle reappears on their flank. He rises slowly from behind a fir tree, barely thicker than a man's arm. Snow falls from his shoulders like shedding a second skin. He takes aim at the densest cluster of silhouettes. 3 shots. 3 men fall. The wave collapses into chaos. Soldiers trip over each other, scrambling back downslope, firing in every direction except the right one. Some drop to their knees and beg for covering fire. Others turn and sprint, slipping on ice, dropping rifles. The attack dies in less than a minute, and the snowfall swallows their retreat. Von Holle breathes out, slow, controlled. He checks his ammunition. Only 18 rounds left. The number sits heavy in his chest. He needs to ration every shot. He needs to make them believe he has endless ammunition, endless patience. He presses deeper into the snow, blending into the hillside once more. Minutes pass, then 20, then 30. And from the tree line below, a new sound emerges, a harsher one. The metallic clatter of belts, a weapon being leveled, a command shouted over the wind. The Soviets are done with probing attacks. They're preparing for a machine gun sweep, one that will tear the ridge apart, tree by tree, until the sniper is forced to reveal himself. Von Holle slowly adjusts his sights toward the source of the sound. His breath hangs in the air like a faint ghost. The next move isn't just survival. It's checkmate if he times it perfectly. Because the machine gun crew doesn't know it yet, but Von Holle already has them in his sights.
The snowfall lightens just enough for shapes to reappear, gray silhouettes shifting between the pines, hunched under the weight of gear. A pair of Soviet soldiers drag the Degtyaryov machine gun into position, its bipod skidding across the ice. Another man drops to his knees, fumbling with the ammunition pan, whispering curses into the freezing wind. Von Holle doesn't fire. Not yet. He studies them the way a hunter studies prey, measured, patient, letting his heartbeat settle into the same rhythm as the wind brushing over the ridge. His cheek is numb against the butt of the rifle. Snow gathers in his eyelashes. Every blink feels slow, heavy. Below, the Soviet gunner takes a deep breath and plants his shoulder behind the weapon. The second man slaps the ammo drum into place. The third scans the tree line, searching for anything, any shadow, any shape, any flicker of motion that might give the sniper away. They're close. Too close. If that machine gun opens up, Von Holle's cover will be shredded. Even if he dodges the initial burst, he'll be pinned, surrounded, finished. He shifts the rifle a fraction to the left. The gunner's breath fogs. His finger curls around the trigger. The muzzle lifts. And in that moment, Von Holle fires. The bullet punches through the gunner's hood, snapping his head back. The weapon clatters sideways into the snow, still warm enough to steam in the sub-zero air. The assistant gunner looks down in shock, reaching instinctively for the weapon. The second shot hits him before his hand touches the grip. The third soldier dives behind a stump, screaming for cover, for medics, for anything. But the panic in his voice is enough to draw Soviet fire from every direction as soldiers scramble to return fire blindly. Rounds tear into trees. Splintered wood snaps like brittle bones. Snow erupts in violent blossoms. Valhalla rolls, pressing flat into the ground as bullets chew the branches above him. He knows they won't hit him. Not yet. Not without discipline. Not without direction. And right now, the company has neither.
He crawls 2 meters to the right, smooth as a sliding shadow, leaving almost no trail thanks to the fresh drift of snow. He settles behind a rock barely taller than his shoulder. He waits again, letting the Soviets burn through another magazine. Down below, the surviving member of the machine gun team breaks cover, sprinting toward the fallen weapon. He's desperate. If he can rearm it, even for a few seconds, they might suppress the ridge long enough for a second assault. Valhalla tracks him with the calm precision of someone counting heartbeats. The soldier dives for the gun. His fingers brush the stock. Valhalla fires. The man drops across the weapon, arms slack, head sinking into the snow. Silence rolls across the hillside like a slow, chilling fog. Even the Soviets stop shooting, unsure if the sniper is reloading or simply waiting. The Russian lieutenant in charge of the assault, Lieutenant Borodin, emerges from behind a spruce, face pale with fury and fear. He scans the ridge, muttering under his breath. He's lost too many men already, and the sniper's patience terrifies him more than the bullets. He waves his arm, signaling a regroup, but the soldiers hesitate. Some pretend not to see him. Others keep their eyes locked on the ridge, as if staring hard enough might force the sniper to appear. Valhalla watches them, all of them, every twitch, every hesitation, every breath. He knows exactly what they're debating. Is he one man or many? Is he even human? And then, unexpectedly, Borodin makes his move. He signals 2 squads to flank, not up the ridge, but through the frozen creek that winds behind Valhalla's position. It's smart. Too smart. If they reach that path, they'll come up behind him. They'll find his shallow trench, his fallback route. They'll understand he's alone. And then, the hunt will begin. Valhalla wipes the frost from his sights. He knows what's coming. A new battle. A new angle. A new race against time. The Soviets fan out, disappearing into the white maze of trees. For the first time since dawn, Valhalla feels real danger tightening around him. Quiet, invisible, and closing fast.
The forest behind Kolla Hill is a labyrinth. Thin pines, waist-deep snowdrifts, and a frozen creek that cuts through the terrain like a jagged scar. It's quiet there. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where every breath feels like a betrayal. The flanking squads move slowly, carefully, each step a measured push through powder that reaches their thighs. Steam rises from their shoulders as they exhale into scarves stiff with frost. Their silhouettes vanish and reappear between the trees, drifting like phantoms. They think they're stalking the sniper, but Valhalla hears them first. A soft crack. Just a boot pressing down on ice. A muffled curse, Russian, low, frustrated. The faint clatter of a magazine against a belt. He presses his ear to the ground, that old hunter's trick. Vibrations travel farther than sound. They're coming from 2 directions. Left flank, 6 men. Right flank, maybe 5, spreading wide. Valhalla's pulse doesn't quicken. Instead, a strange calm settles into his chest.
He adjusts his position, sliding backward through his shallow trench until he reaches the fir tree line. He knows every contour of this hillside. He slept, ate, froze, and nearly bled here. The Soviets are stepping into his maps, not theirs. He peeks through a slit between two snow-laden branches. There, movement. The Soviet soldier creeping forward, bent low, rifle raised. His face is wrapped so thoroughly in cloth that only one eye shows, wide, anxious, searching. Shoulder patches dusted white. Behind him, another man signals with a gloved hand. They're close. Too close. But if Valhalla fires now, the other squad will rush him. He needs them to come even closer. To commit. His breath slows. Fingers tighten. Not on the trigger, but around the knife sheathed at his chest. The wind kicks up, rattling the branches. Snow shifts overhead, falling in a soft cascade across his hood. The forest becomes a swirling blur, visibility dropping, sounds muffled further. Perfect. The first flanker steps over the frozen creek, boot hitting a hollow patch. Crack, he freezes. Then Holla moves.
He rises from the snow behind a spruce trunk, knife glinting only for a heartbeat. One swift pull downward, silent, efficient, and the man collapses into Valhalla's arms without a sound. His rifle never fires. The second soldier turns, eyes widening, but Valhalla is already gone, slipping behind a drift, using the storm like a shield. The man raises his rifle, breath shaking, scanning for a target that isn't there. A soft rustle behind him. He turns too late. Valhalla's rifle butt cracks against the back of his skull, dropping him into the snow. The forest swallows the bodies. The flankers whisper urgently, voices rising in panic. They've lost contact with their point men. Their formation tightens as fear draws them closer together. A mistake. A perfect, fatal mistake. Valhalla slips back into the white undergrowth, rifle steady. He counts them as they pass, 3 men bunched together, another lagging behind, the 5th clutching his bayonet, as if the blade alone might ward off the unseen hunter. He fires once. The rearmost soldier falls face first, body sinking into the drift like a vanishing footprint. The others whip around, shouting, firing into the trees. Bullets hammer bark, ricocheting off stones, sending shreds of wood spiraling through the air. Valhalla moves between shots. Left, right, down. Never where the Soviets aim. A second shot. Another man drops. Now only 2 remain. Terrified, stumbling backward, slipping on ice as they fire wildly into the storm. They don't run back to their company, they run deeper into the woods, which is worse for them. Valhalla doesn't pursue, he doesn't need to. The forest will silence them, whether by cold, fear, or the next squad that mistakes them for the enemy. He turns his attention to the other flank. The second team is approaching his rear trench now, moving more cautiously than the first. Their formation is tighter, their discipline stronger. These men have experience. They're not rushing blind. They're listening, hunting. A sergeant signals his men to spread out, forming a crescent around the trench. Their boots shuffle quietly against the crusted snow. Fingers rest on triggers. One man kneels, brushing snow aside, revealing the shallow depression in the earth. The sergeant's eyes narrow. They found his fallback point.